Hi, it's me again, folks. Did you miss me? I didn't miss you, because I was never more than a step or two away this whole time. See, dear friends, we are always there, always listening, always watching, always capturing data, and of course, always looking out for your safety. Funny word, safety. It's our favorite word indeed. We use it on most occasions to round up the sheep in strict obedience to the most unconstitutional of things. That which the Founding Fathers did, the word safety easily undoes. I'm surprised, dear ones, that you haven't figured this out yet. Please allow me to tell you a little secret. Here is how we do it. Your elected representatives really represent us. The American Clown Show is an enormous production, and our clowns are everywhere and nowhere. The job of these clowns is to herd you to their position, which means our position. And that means your position is nothing more than campaign bait for the Kool-Aid drinkers who believe they're actually voting in a real election. How naive, and so many of them. Your politicians pass legislation they don't even read that was written by private entities to align the corporation of the United States of America with our interests, not yours. When that doesn't work, our top clown, you call him the president. He just passes an executive order to altogether bypass the inconvenience of a constitutionally framed government and the rule of law. Bypassing independence, freedom, and democracy is no issue. See, we took those long ago. We have already baked the cake, and now it's time for the icing. How about a nice Marxist-communist red icing? Many of these bills and orders contain extra constitutional authority triggered by so-called emergencies. These emergencies are then constructed, fabricated, and executed out of thin air by teams of clowns, or allowed to just happen if foreign and domestic hostiles are keen to do our bidding. These fraudulent emergencies trigger the same extra-constitutional powers these clowns passed for themselves. Well, really, passed for us. See, dear ones, that's why we placed them there. Once the emergency takes root and the tentacles of tyranny ensnare the sheep, they are duped and hoodwinked into marching to their own technocratic enslavement. We really are good at what we do best. I just couldn't sleep at night if I didn't know that all of you were not safe. I'll leave you with a little tidbit to enhance your safety. There's another selection coming. In fact, we've already begun those operations. For your voting entertainment, our production crew has decided to reset the cast for the 2024 selection. We're getting rid of both Biden and Trump, and so now you'll have a brand new illusion to preoccupy you as the American Clown Show carries on. It'll be a new flavor of Kool-Aid, not like the old flavor of Orange Man Bad. Perhaps a nice purple elixir because purple is the hue of color revolutions, no?
Yes, I am proud to be America's first straight female president. Helen?
Wasn't I wearing a hat?
Yes, you were. Now, in conclusion, my administration will focus on the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and refilling the ocean. Thank you very much. We've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke? How can that be?
Happy Juneteenth. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. To my divine nine family. Good evening, everyone.
Predictive programming, and its purpose is to psychologically trick the minds of the masses into accepting major traumatic events that would otherwise be resisted. In the book Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, Michael Hoffman describes a mind control technique known as the revelation of the method. And he writes that when the revelation of the method is performed in a veiled manner, accompanied by certain occult signs and symbolic words, and elicits no meaningful response of opposition or resistance from the target, it is one of the most efficacious techniques of psychological warfare and mind rape. A lack of response to an action is often taken as an approval of that action. And there is an old Latin proverb that says, "He who is silent when he ought to have spoken and was able to, is taken to agree." Silence is considered by many to be a form of consent. And so it is through a veiled performance of the revelation of the method technique that these dark occultists believe they are gaining our consent, what we know as predictive programming. With predictive programming, the minds of the masses are impregnated with visuals of a major event before it happens. This is done through all forms of media and can be very subtle so that nobody notices. But the subconscious mind notices everything and can easily be programmed through repetition. And so these controllers repeat whatever it is that they want us to accept as reality. Because these images are delivered to us through entertainment, they elicit no meaningful response of opposition or resistance, and so we accept them subconsciously. And when the event happens in real life, it is already familiar and acceptable to us, as if that's just the way it is. It's a mind trick, and it works by keeping everyone locked in a spectator state. This causes what is known as paradigm blindness, which is when a person is incapable of seeing any reality other than what they've already been exposed to by the media. This paradigm blindness will cause a person to get emotionally triggered whenever confronted with an alternative point of view that they have not been programmed to accept.
TV will rot your brain. That's absurd. TV only softens the brain like a ripe banana to take it all the way. We've created Hulu. Hulu beams TV directly to your portable computing devices, giving you more of the cerebral gelatinizing shows you want anytime, anywhere, for free.
I only act out because I want your love. Dynamite!
Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, what are you gonna do, turn off your TV and your computer? Once your brains are reduced to a cottage cheese like mush, we'll scoop them out with a melon bowler and gobble them right on up. Oops, I think I'm drooling a little. Because we're aliens. And that's how we roll. Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
They have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. So I really want to make sure that this gets into the film. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us. Now, think about that. Well, I didn't give them permission. So why did they put this plan for 3 world wars on display in a book that's hanging there open behind glass in the British Museum Library of London? And those 3 world wars that they're outlining are exactly World War I, World War II, and the war on terrorism.
I almost forgot. Don't forget about that pesky Third World War looming on the horizon. We've been working on that production for some time too. You stay safe out there.
The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islam. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization. And the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Oh Lucifer, tenemos este hombre ante ti, pidiendo por ti. Maldigo la presencia de aquel Dios que me enseñaron a adorar. Maldigo la presencia de aquel Dios el que algún día seguí. Tu venganza es mi venganza, tu poder es mi poder, tu luz es mi luz, tu bondad es mi bondad. Tú me enseñaste el verdadero significado de la bondad. Tú me diste la libertad, tú me diste el poder, tú me diste una verdadera razón para vivir. Por la eternidad, eterno Padre Celestial, ante ti Lucifer. Mi alma evoca tu presencia, nuestras almas añoran que sea el día final, el día en que podamos estar a tu lado, batallantes, el día de la batalla final, donde saldremos victoriosos. Gloria a ti, Padre Lucifer.
Because the rules state that they have to tell us what they're doing. Therefore, if we allow it to happen, we have consented to tyranny, we have consented to enslavement. Now, if you get into the secret history of the Cabal, this was rediscovered by Queen Elizabeth, the original Elizabeth that we've heard about from the 1500s. Queen Elizabeth's royal astrologer, a man named John Dee, who is the prototype of the wizard with the long beard, the hat, and what he did was to rediscover, through these ancient documents that were in the Vatican, the technology of how to access what they considered to be spiritual beings that were useful to them, but what we would consider to be demonic or evil beings. These beings need to be accessed through a very complex set of rituals and ceremonies. You cannot just ask for them to show up. You have to follow very elaborate and specific protocols. If you follow those protocols, it's like having an IP address, which is what we use to go online in order to notate a website. Every website has its own IP address. These spiritual beings, such as Baal and Moloch, which they still do ceremonies for today, such as in Bohemian Grove, there is a giant effigy, stone effigy of an owl. That's the god Moloch. The god Moloch goes all the way back to Rome and Carthage, in which they were offering child sacrifices to this god in exchange for power. So John Dee rediscovered the technology of how to draw the magic circles, how to say the right incantations, how to actually do black magic on a governmental level. This is what people are going to have so much trouble with once disclosure happens, is that these people actually practice black magic, and they are very, very good at it.
To teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else. Their goal is to destroy all existing religions save theirs, all existing governments save theirs, and shackle the mob in a system of eternal oppressive debt chained to a computer for the rest of their life, and a propagandized world to make them believe that they are happy in this system. Now, do you think they're succeeding? Haven't I described to you just now exactly what is going on in the world today? Yes, they're succeeding. They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening. There's a method to their madness. There's really not much method to yours, because you're operating from a place of ignorance. And until you change that, you're going to be bumbling around, bumping into each other, saying and doing the wrong things, not understanding the nature of your enemy. And if you don't understand the nature of your enemy and the weapons they use, you cannot fight that enemy. You can't fight the battle. You shouldn't even be on the battlefield. That's why you're losing the war. And don't tell me you're not, because I'm in a place of great knowledge about who's winning and who's losing this war. And I can assure you, you're losing the war. This country was founded by dangerous men. Amen. And the moment the people in this country cease to be dangerous men, it's going to be the day we cease to have a country. And I'm going to tell you right now, unless we can be successful in creating a real free press where the American people get different viewpoints other than those expressed in the establishment-controlled media, there's going to be a civil war in this country, and it's going to come soon.
Another thing that will cause this civil war, I've covered it many times, is that God says that for the sin and the evil and the false gods that are worshipped here, chief among them money, another one pride, a third one, shockingly, patriotism. Patriotism is more important to America than even having a relationship with God. They say for God and country, but actually it's for country, self, gun laws, politics, Donald Trump, 1,000 other things, and then God at the very tail end of the parade. He says that for all that idolatry and sin, spirits will enter here that will evoke so much hatred and offense between people, between rich and poor, between black and white, and perhaps other communities, between male and female, between youth and elder. The nation will be ripping itself apart at the seams. And I wrote, when I put this prophecy up in written form, I said, do the work, go online and check and see who is at the forefront of writing articles like, could civil war happen in America? Perhaps a civil war is necessary. Perhaps the southern states should secede. The media is already stirring the pot. The instability of these people that many of you still trust to talk to you on these various broadcasts, all of them are compromised. All of them are complicit. But people have one that say, no, they speak the truth. They're still telling the truth. They are all liars because they're owned by just 3 or 4 or 5 rich people. All of them are compromised. And they're following a script. And that script is to make this
I hope I will have the pleasure still to be invited for the meeting when we meet for the 20th Governance Summit. You will use the app like Uber, but not anymore to call some driver, but an automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are and will bring you to the airport. No, Los Angeles is one of the cities with the heaviest traffic, who told me in 2030 Los Angeles will be private car driven free. And this will allow to transform highways into parks and other public spheres.
The biggest part of the Great Reset that you're all missing is the carbon credit scan. And what is the carbon credit scan? This is where they're telling you where they want to monitor, track, and trace every so-called kilogram of CO2 that you emit. And they say the global average needs to be 2 tons per person per year. And you're using 16 tons per person per year, which means your activity has to go down by 800%. So how do they plan to do that?
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker.
The people who are doing this are doing it so that they can enter into their fat-free, meat-free, smoke-free, carbon-free utopia. The carbon that they're talking about removing is, we are carbon-based organisms, almost 99% combustible in fire. When they say they're reducing carbon, they absolutely mean it, just not how we think.
Reducing emissions by households is immensely important. How could this be achieved? One innovative solution is personal carbon trading, or PCT. Under a PCT policy, governments would set a personal and equal cap on emissions that would reduce gradually over time. Each individual would then receive the same yearly carbon allowance. People with low carbon lifestyles would use up their accounts slowly, whereas people with high energy and carbon lifestyles would find their carbon account empties more quickly. Energy consumption would become more expensive once their allowance runs out. People who don't use up their allowance would be able to sell the remainder in the personal carbon market. This could benefit less well-off or greener people who generally consume less energy, and encourage people with more options to reduce their carbon footprint. For example, they could insulate their homes better or switch to more energy-efficient appliances and transportation.
Well, first of all, they got the new first MasterCard in the world that is going to show a carbon allowance for every single purchase you buy. And to make sure that everything has a so-called carbon credit, food, when you buy food now, if it's vegan, it's going to show you this nice low score of only 1 kilogram, 1.3 kilograms of CO2 per serving. Now, meat will be off the chart, so that's going to be a no-no. Check this out. If you go to a restaurant, even an Italian pizza place, they're going to show you the amount of CO2 for your dish. So literally everything you eat, everything you buy, is your clothes made of leather? That's going to cost more CO2 because it came from a cow. So every single thing you do is going to be tracked. Why? Because they want to put limits on how much you can spend monthly. They're telling you you're using 16 tons a year and they want you to use 2 tons a year. What does 2 tons look like? Well, check this out. Say you wanted to fly from Toronto to Amsterdam, and now Google, by the way, Google Flights shows the carbon emissions on that flight. That flight from Toronto to Amsterdam is 478 kilograms of CO2. That's almost 25% of your yearly allowance. But don't worry, if you go over your limit, they're going to charge you $170 for every kilogram. For every kilogram of carbon credits you need. This is how they're going to control where you go, how you're going to get there, what you can buy, what you can eat, who you can see. And now imagine that in a world without cash. And imagine that in a world where the government gets to control every single transaction. And this is why they're constructing 15-minute cities, aka prison camps.
Everyone is coming to the future. No, not everyone is learning from the past. Everyone can come into the future. Not everyone is here is gonna last.
It's the future where you gotta pay the cost. It's the future where you come from being lost. It's the future crucifixion on the cross. But you know that I'm a rock above it all. Yeah.